For more than a decade, the distance between one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars and his only daughter unfolded quietly, without statements, interviews, or public confrontation. It was a separation marked not by headlines at first, but by absence. Suri, once photographed in her father's arms on red carpets, slowly faded from his public life while the world speculated without answers. Now, at 19, she has spoken not through words, but through choices that reflect independence and emotional clarity. Raised in extraordinary circumstances she never chose, Suri grew up learning how to exist between fame and privacy. Her story is not one of scandal, but of quiet resilience. It is also the story of a father whose global success could not prevent a deeply personal loss. Together, their journey reveals how fame, belief systems, and adulthood decisions can create distances that time alone does not always heal. A Hollywood love story that felt like destiny. When Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes met in 2005, their romance captured imaginations almost instantly. Katie was a young actress stepping confidently beyond television fame, while Tom was already a global icon whose career defined modern blockbuster cinema. Their connection felt cinematic, fueled by excitement, admiration, and timing that seemed almost scripted. Public appearances showed two people swept up in a powerful moment, unafraid to display joy in front of cameras. For Katie, the relationship appeared like a dream realized, while Tom seemed revitalized by love and family aspirations. The world followed every development with fascination, interpreting their affection as proof that fairy tales still existed in Hollywood. When their daughter Suri was born in 2006, she symbolized hope, renewal, and a future built on love. Yet beneath the spectacle, they were also two individuals navigating vastly different backgrounds, beliefs, and expectations. A childhood defined by attention and protection. From the moment she was born, Suri's life was shaped by extraordinary attention. Her parents were among the most photographed people on Earth, and her childhood unfolded under constant scrutiny. Yet behind the images, her upbringing was carefully managed, with privacy becoming a form of protection. Katie, raised in a grounded Midwestern family, was determined to shield her daughter from unnecessary exposure. Tom, deeply committed to his worldview and disciplined lifestyle, believed structure and belief offered stability. These differing approaches quietly influenced family dynamics. While the public saw smiles and coordinated appearances, the private reality involved navigating complex choices about schooling, faith, and daily life. For a child, these forces were invisible but powerful, shaping her environment long before she could understand them. Suri grew up loved by both parents, yet surrounded by systems and expectations that made ordinary childhood moments increasingly rare. When the image began to fracture, by the late 2000s, subtle changes became noticeable to those watching closely. Katie appeared more reserved, less spontaneous, and increasingly careful in public. Friends and observers sensed a growing distance between her public role and private emotions. Tom remained confident and driven, immersed in his career and personal convictions, while Katie seemed to retreat inward, focusing more intensely on motherhood. Families often evolve under pressure, and theirs was no exception. The challenge was magnified by fame, rigid schedules, and constant observation. What appeared perfect on magazine covers no longer felt sustainable behind closed doors. Katie's parents, watching from a distance, worried quietly but respected her autonomy. Over time, it became clear that compromises were becoming sacrifices. The cracks were not dramatic, but they were real, built from years of adapting to a life that no longer aligned with her sense of safety or identity. A decision that changed everything. In 2012, Katie Holmes made a decision that stunned Hollywood. Filing for divorce was not an impulsive act, but a carefully planned step rooted in protection and clarity. Her priority was ensuring stability and independence for her young daughter, choosing a legal path that allowed her to make decisions about education, health, and upbringing. The process was swift, quiet, and decisive, signaling a desire to avoid prolonged conflict. Tom, immersed in filming at the time, was taken by surprise, marking a moment where control gave way to reality. The separation was handled with restraint on both sides, avoiding public disputes. What followed was a physical and emotional relocation, as Katie and Suri built a new life centered on routine rather than spectacle. For Suri, the change was profound, marking the beginning of a childhood shaped by absence rather than visibility. Growing up, away from the spotlight. After the divorce, Suri's life became deliberately quieter. Raised primarily in New York City, she attended school, explored creative interests, and experienced routines that resembled normalcy more than celebrity. Katie embraced the role of a protective, present parent, prioritizing consistency and emotional safety. Over the years, Suri developed into a thoughtful, creative teenager, drawn to music, performance, and fashion. Public sightings were rare and unforced, reflecting a conscious effort to let her grow without labels. Meanwhile, Tom's career continued at full speed, marked by ambitious projects and global travel. Though he remained financially supportive, their worlds no longer intersected publicly. The silence was never explained, only observed. For Suri, adolescence unfolded without her father's visible presence, shaping a sense of independence rooted not in rebellion, but in adaptation and self-reliance. Choosing identity over legacy. As Suri approached adulthood, her choices began to speak more clearly. While studying at New York's LaGuardia High School, she immersed herself in creative expression, participating in performances and collaborative projects. One quiet but meaningful decision drew attention when she began using the name Suri Noel, honoring her mother's middle name. It was not framed as rejection, but as self-definition. Names carry meaning, and this choice reflected autonomy rather than controversy. Graduation came without spectacle, marked instead by family presence and personal pride. Katie stood nearby, offering the steady support that had defined their relationship for years. Suri's next step, enrolling at Carnegie Mellon University to study fashion, further emphasized her desire to build something on her own terms. It was a continuation of a pattern shaped by privacy, intention, and emotional independence, a mother and daughter against the world. Throughout every transition, the bond between Katie and Suri remained the emotional constant. Their relationship evolved from protection to partnership, built on trust rather than control. Public moments, when they occurred, revealed warmth and mutual respect rather than performance. Katie balanced guidance with space, allowing her daughter to grow into her own identity. Observers often noted how grounded Suri appeared despite her extraordinary background, a reflection of deliberate parenting rather than chance. Together, they navigated fame's aftermath with quiet strength, choosing ordinary moments over public validation. Whether walking city streets, attending school events, or sharing simple routines, their connection became the foundation of Suri's resilience. It was not a story of exclusion, but of prioritization. In a world eager for drama, they chose stability, proving that healing does not always require explanation. A father's success and an unanswered distance. While Suri built a private life, Tom Cruise continued to reach new professional heights. His career entered another peak, defined by daring performances and global acclaim. Publicly, he remained focused, disciplined, and intensely private about family matters. He rarely spoke about Suri, allowing silence to stand where explanations might have invited speculation. Financial responsibility continued, but emotional visibility did not. For fans, the contrast was striking. A man capable of commanding the world's attention, unable to bridge a deeply personal gap. Distance became the defining feature of their relationship, not hostility or conflict. Whether shaped by belief, circumstance, or time, the separation endured. It serves as a reminder that professional achievement cannot substitute emotional connection, and that some distances are maintained not by anger, but by unresolved paths diverging over time. The cost of fame and the question that remains today. Suri Noel stands at the beginning of adulthood, shaping a future that belongs entirely to her. Her life reflects choice, intention, and the quiet strength born from navigating complexity without spectacle. The story of her family is not one of villains or heroes, but of human decisions made under extraordinary pressure. Fame amplified every difference, turning private struggles into public curiosity. As she moves forward, the question lingers without demand for an answer. Can time reopen doors that silence closed? Or do some relationships transform into something distant but permanent? What remains undeniable is Suri's emergence as her own person, defined not by legacy, but by selfhood. In choosing privacy, she reclaimed control over a story that began before she could speak, proving that sometimes the bravest voice is the one that doesn't need to explain itself.